We're back for another round of Spot the Fake, but this time, I'm changing it up. Welcome to American Esoterica. If history class gives you the latest and greatest phone, this is the case you immediately buy for it because they still can't figure out how to make the things indestructible. The essential stuff in between. The personalities, events, and other ephemera that shape our history and culture. I'm Brian Powers. It's round 3 of our now annual game of separating fact from fiction. And this year we're going to do things a little differently. Instead of a few lies and a truth, it's a few truths and a lie. Just like that icebreaker you did at the last corporate retreat before the CFO started getting handsy with the receptionist, and then Trish from HR had to leave the golf resort a day early to go file the complaint paperwork, and everybody had to hear about it for like 6 weeks. So here we go. These all sound fake, but only one of them actually is. No tricks this time either. Spot the out-and-out fake. Ready?
Let's do this.
It's 1846, and a group of pioneers is headed west through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Only they hit a snag. Because of a late start, they have attempted a dodgy shortcut proposed by a man named Lansford Hastings, which actually takes longer than one of the more established routes on what is known as the California Trail. Exhausted and out of supplies by October, the first snowfall blocks them in. They eat their way through their remaining animals by mid-December. They work their way through their supplies of rawhide, and then, as they gradually starve to death, the survivors resort to cannibalism, which is one way in which the California Trail is different from the Oregon Trail, where you just had to worry about dysentery. A party breaks off in search of help, but even they have to resort to cannibalism before they make it to help, which doesn't reach the others for a couple more months. 87 people set off for California as part of the Donner Reed Party. That's Donner Reed Party, more popularly known as the Donner Party, and only 7 wind up surviving. It could have been much, much, much worse, however, especially for the nation, because there could have been 88 people on that trip, had one potential and reportedly eager Donner Party member chosen to go, a local lawyer named Abraham Lincoln. During the Revolutionary War, a well-dressed man on horseback approached a group of Continental soldiers while they were constructing a breastworks out of stone. He pulled one of the soldiers aside and pointed to a particularly large stone. That stone, the man told him, should be at the center of the breastworks and the soldier should put it there. "But sir," said the soldier, "I'm a corporal," implying that, of the 500 or so soldiers working there, placing rocks was not his job. "Oh," said the well-dressed man, "I ask your pardon, sir." And he climbed down off the horse, picked up the rock, placed it carefully in the center of the breastworks, then remounted his horse. He then addressed the soldier, "When you have another such job and have not men enough, send to your commander-in-chief, and I will come and help you a second time." That corporal learned a hard lesson in leadership that day from none other than George Washington himself. Everybody knows that the Civil War pitted brother against brother, but not many know that World War II pitted nephew against uncle. Frustrated at his uncle, a 33-year-old named William Patrick Stewart Houston, born in Liverpool, England in 1911, petitioned none other than the President of the United States to let him join the United States military. "All my relatives and friends soon will be marching for freedom and decency under the stars and stripes. I am respectfully submitting this petition to you to inquire as to whether I may be allowed to join them in their struggle against tyranny and oppression." In 1944, despite the man being a British citizen, the president agreed, and Stewart Houston joined the Navy, where he became a pharmacist's mate. He was discharged in 1947, but not before receiving a Purple Heart for a shrapnel wound. Also, it's worth mentioning that he only changed his name after the war when he became a United States citizen and settled down in New York, because life would have been too rough walking around with the name William Patrick Hitler. Grief comes in many forms, but it may have been at its strangest in the case of West Virginia politician Mark Hunt. In 1999, he and his wife lost their 10-month-old son due to complications from surgery to correct heart defects. In his grief, Hunt turned, as one does, to the Raelian movement, a UFO-based religion that believes humans were created by a race of scientist aliens. He partnered with a scientist from the movement and invested $500,000 to build a secret lab in Nitro, West Virginia, with but one purpose: to clone his lost baby son. The whole thing unraveled when the FDA caught on in 2001, but that didn't seem to affect Hunt's political career. He was elected to both chambers of the West Virginia legislature and in 2025 became the state's auditor. What happens when you're 100 miles from home and your submarine runs out of gas? Well, you hoist the mainsail and make for port. In 1921, while out searching for a missing tug off the coast of Hawaii, the submarine R-14 lost radio contact and ran out of fuel. Dead in the water, with few options, they did what their forebears had done for centuries. They put up some sails and sailed their way home. It is the only time in American history when a submarine traveled under wind power. So here we are, once again. Here are 5 incredible stories, but one of them isn't true. Is it Abraham Lincoln, possible Donner Party member? General Washington putting the not my job theory to rest? Hitler's nephew joins the United States Navy? Politician uses cult to clone dead son? A giant metal diesel submarine sails home? Got your answer?
Let's go.
The Donner Party departed from a location that should be familiar: Springfield, Illinois. James Reed, co-leader of the Donner Reed Party, was actually good friends with Abraham Lincoln. They first met in 1832 when they served together during the, and always say this slowly, Black Hawk War, and they became fast friends. Sometime after the war, they both found themselves in Springfield, and as a newly minted lawyer, Lincoln often advised his friend Reed in his business affairs. Deeply in debt and with an ailing wife, Reed thought that his fortunes might lay in California, so he loaded up his wagons and headed west. Not before, according to one historian, trying to convince his friend Abraham to join him. It wasn't Lincoln who needed convincing, but rather his wife, Mary Todd, and her recalcitrance served her country well. She did, however, wave goodbye to the departing Donner Party. For his part, James Reed got into an argument and killed a fellow traveler on the way. He was banished from the party, and he actually made it through the mountains ahead of them. He tried to go back to bring them supplies, but first snow blocked his way, then so did war, as he took up arms in the Battle of Santa Clara in January 1847 before organizing a second relief party to go back for his wife and kids, all of whom would wind up safely rescued. This story, as far as we know, is true. So, on to number 2. Records during the Revolutionary War weren't particularly great, and if you were a veteran trying to gain a pension, you might find yourself in the position of one Jacob Francis, a free black man who had to convince the government that he had served. In his application for pension, he relayed one particularly interesting anecdote about a particular general riding among troops building a stone breastwork near Boston, which verified his service in that time and place. The general suggested the placement of a stone, a corporal declined, the general did it himself, and so on. Only one problem. Over time, retellings embellished the story, which stayed essentially the same in overall plot, but got much more fantastical once General George Washington was swapped in for the original general of Francis's anecdote, General Israel Putnam. Yes, that's what we're calling the fake one, right here and right now. So, let's dispense with the rest, shall we? Yes, William Patrick Hitler was born to Adolf's half-brother in Liverpool, England, home of the Beatles. In true family fashion, he was abandoned by his father, Alois, who went back to Germany. It's said that he originally meant just to visit, but World War I prevented his return. Rather than finding a way back to his wife and child, Alois just decided to start up a whole new family in Germany, as one does. William visited his father in Germany when he turned 18, and he decided to move there full-time when his uncle became the chancellor, expecting to benefit from the family's sudden rise to power. things got a little too real, and Uncle Adolf demanded that William renounce his British citizenship. Instead, William fled the country, and when World War II erupted, he made a sweeping speaking tour to warn of the dangers of his uncle's regime. The British were hesitant to allow Hitler's nephew to serve, so he wrote to President Roosevelt instead. After some serious FBI vetting, William Patrick Hitler joined the Navy. He changed his name after the war, got married, and started up a successful blood analysis laboratory. William Patrick Stewart Houston died in 1987. William's half-brother in Germany didn't live quite so long. Growing up in Germany, he became an ardent Nazi, was captured by the Soviets, and because of his family connections, he was tortured to death in 1942. See, plenty of happy endings here. Speaking of Nazis, let's talk about the Raelians, who heavily favored human cloning as part of their cult worship. First, it seems that West Virginia Auditor Mark Hunt really was only interested in the cloning aspect of these weirdos, and mainly just through the primary scientist he hired to make his secret West Virginian baby cloning lab. So I really don't want to defame someone with where this goes next, because the Nazi connection is very, very real with the Raelians. Their logo used to be a Star of David with a swastika in the center of it, which makes for at least some incredibly confusing iconography. So, UFO worshipping baby cloning Nazis? This one is too bizarre to be fake. To end on a slightly different note after all the Nazis and cannibalism, we turn to submarine R-14 and its smooth sailing to port. While searching for the tug the USS Conestoga, R-14 ran completely out of fuel. The radio transmitter had also failed, and there was almost no chance of being found by passing ships, which used a shipping lane further away. With only 4 days of food remaining, sitting on a 680-ton buoy with no propulsion, the commander suddenly had an idea. If they lashed the hammocks together on a makeshift mast of a torpedo crane, they might be able to sail the boat back. Once this cobbled-together sail proved effective at getting the boat to move at a brisk 1 knot, the crew then used everything that wasn't tied down to rig up 2 more sails. The submarine had become a 3-masted ship by the end of its journey, which took 4 full days with constant round-the-clock watches at a speed of 2 knots. They had mostly favorable weather, save for a 4-hour stretch near the end where fog cut visibility to nothing and the wind shifted direction. It was a remarkable feat of seamanship, and the R-14 remains the only submarine in the United States Navy to have been powered by sail. This has been American Esoterica. All sounds were made by me, Brian Powers. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Just want to talk about once I said Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Nazis, and the Donner Party, you yelled out bingo? Drop me a note. The address is yell@americanesoterica.com. More information on the show can be found at americanesoterica.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless America.